Punk Revolution now, there has been a plot twist in the music universe, which is that, according to rateyourmusic.com, the greatest website of all time for categorizing and rating and organizing music, which is a thing that for some reason thousands of teenagers really enjoy doing, including myself. Well, Kendrick Lamar's album To Pimp a Butterfly is now rated the very best album of all time, and it surpassed OK Computer's Radiohead to take the spot as number one, the best of all time in all of history! And I just wanted to make a video to kind of mentally process that, because I actually do think it's a pretty big deal, frankly. I mean, obviously, Rate Your Music is just one website. You can have whatever opinion you want. I'm not saying that because Rate Your Music says it's the best, that it actually is the best, but I do take people's opinions pretty seriously on it, and I posted a Twitter poll and an Instagram poll asking which do you prefer, OK Computer versus To Pimp a Butterfly, and it was pretty close to 50-50, actually a little bit more for To Pimp a Butterfly, so it really does seem like the consensus is that, yeah, maybe you don't necessarily think it's number one, but it seems like the consensus is that it actually does deserve to go down as one of the greatest albums of all time. And this is a big mind fudge for me, because I remember listening to Pimp a Butterfly on the day it came out. I actually saw Kendrick Lamar perform on SNL. I saw him live a few months before this album came out, and I actually listened to Good Kid, M.A.A.d City the day it came out as well. So I've been following Kendrick Lamar. I remember being there, and it's really interesting because I loved Good Kid, M.A.A.d City. And when To Pimp a Butterfly came out, my reaction was not that I was listening to one of the best albums of all time. My reaction was, yes, this is a really great album. Yes, this has sealed the deal. Kendrick Lamar is for sure one of the best, if not the best rappers of this generation. But, for context, Pitchfork gave it a 9.3 out of 10. And obviously Pitchfork gets a lot of stuff wrong. But, they also gave Good Kid, M.A.A.d City a 9.5 out of 10, and that's a significant thing. They're saying that, yeah, To Pimp a Butterfly is pretty much on par with Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, but maybe just slightly, just a hair less perfect as Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, and that was my reaction as well. I remember, I loved Good Kid, M.A.A.d City, and then I listened to Pimp a Butterfly, and I was like, oh, this is super cool, but frankly, I think I'm gonna find myself listening to Good Kid, M.A.A.d City more. To Pimp a Butterfly is a very dense album, very complicated, it's very long, lots of just crazy, tons of layers within the production, lots of songs that aren't really catchy, but actually sound more like Kendrick Lamar being tortured by institutional racism for a hour and 20 minutes. It's a pretty heavy, challenging, difficult listen that I just never really thought of it as a freaking masterpiece. But as time has gone on, I really thought it was going to be seen as, if you like Good Kid, M.A.A.d City and you want more of Kendrick Lamar, check out To Pimp a Butterfly, because To Pimp a Butterfly is like the amnesiac to I always thought of Good Kid, M.A.A.d City as OK Computer and To Pimp a Butterfly as Amnesiac, where, the Amnesiac is like the darker, more serious, more experimental album. It's really cool, but it's frankly just overshadowed by the predecessor. That's how I always had To Pimp a Butterfly kind of sit in my brain. And I guess in a sense, that's how I still feel. I still prefer Good Kid, M.A.A.d City to Pimp a Butterfly. I feel like it's just a lot easier to just throw on any old song from Good Kid, M.A.A.d City and just have a really fun, good time. While I also feel like Good Kid, M.A.A.d City does actually deal with very heavy, thoughtful, emotional, challenging themes in a very creative way, the same way To Pimp a Butterfly does. But To Pimp a Butterfly, I feel like sometimes I'm listening to it from start to finish and I kind of get a little exhausted because it's just throwing so much at you. A lot of these tracks, frankly, just are interludes or poems, and I'm not a huge poem fan, and I know it has a lot of, I know it does the 2-pack thing is super cool, lots of awesome things about To Pimp a Butterfly, and I'm not trying to say you're wrong for saying To Pimp a Butterfly is one of the best albums of all time. What I'm trying to do is just kind of put myself in relative history. Okay? Because my guess is that, at some point, everybody who was a huge music nerd in the 70s and 80s all agreed that Dark Side of the Moon was the greatest album of all time. Or all the music nerds from the 60s and early 70s all agreed that Abbey Road was the greatest album of all time. And probably when OK Computer came out, they maybe felt the same way, where, oh, OK Computer comes out, that's great, but I prefer the Bends, whatever. Oh, now it's the best album of all time? I disagree. I still prefer Abbey Road. I'm just saying, it's like, this is like it's just history continuing and going on and on and on. And I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just interesting that I need to go back and I just guess I gotta listen to Pimp a Butterfly more, because I'm seeing a lot of people who genuinely would die for this album, saying they've listened to it 50, 60 times, and every time they love it so much, and they learn something new about themselves and the world, and it's just a phenomenal masterpiece. And I am saying it is a really dense album. To me, that's almost like a slight flaw, but obviously it does mean there's a lot going on in there, and I'm sure it does have a ton of things you can pick up as you continue listening to it. This was in 2015. That was basically suggesting that a lot of people who immediately gave To Pimp a Butterfly high scores when it came out were kind of swept up by the hype, because let's face it, a lot of reviewers, they review things only 2-3 days after it comes out, and they just get, emotionally caught up in, oh, I love Kendrick Lamar so much, and he released a good album, I just want to give it a high score or whatever. And that if you actually sit back, it's just like a lot of over-intellectual overthinking, takes itself too seriously. It's just the sound of Kendrick Lamar suffering for an hour and 20 minutes, and that's not actually an enjoyable experience. And this is interesting too, because the person who wrote this article is obviously wrong. It's not the case that the reviewers were overhyped when it first came out, and then they were proven wrong as time came out. It's starting to look like the opposite. It's starting to look embarrassing for Pitchfork giving it a 9.3 when maybe they should have given it a 10. Anthony Fantano, I'm not giving you a W. I'm not giving you a W. I think you're wrong about this. I think Anthony Fantano brainwashed everyone into liking this album. But seriously, folks, I am just trying to process this. To Pimp a Butterfly, one of the best albums of all time. I do feel like the message and the lyrics of this album are so intensely about institutional racism, and it's a beautifully communicated album. It's a beautiful message. I really do believe that. I do wonder, though, maybe it hasn't clicked. Maybe it's, I was just gonna say maybe it hasn't clicked with me as on deep of a level as a lot of other people, because I'm not black. And I know obviously there's a lot of white people who love this album and say it's a masterpiece. I don't know, I'd imagine that it is the case. There's probably a lot of music listeners who are black and who do connect with this album on a very deep level, connecting with the music in a way that a lot of white people don't. How did I not see this coming? Why did this catch me off guard so much? Is anyone else kind of shocked? I don't know. It's, to me, it almost feels like because I witnessed it come out and I felt it kind of fizzle, the release kind of fizzle. Like it felt like this album was fizzling out in a trajectory where it was going to go down as Kendrick Lamar's second best album. But instead it seemed like it fizzled and grew and grew and grew, and all of a sudden now it's like it's like the consensus is that it's Kendrick Lamar's masterpiece, and it's not only is it his masterpiece, it is a masterpiece that everyone needs to listen to, and it is a masterpiece that is maybe one of the best, if not the best albums of all time. So I guess I don't really know where I'm going with this. I don't have very much of a conclusion. I just kind of wanted to talk and get these thoughts off my head. I'm definitely going to go re-listen to the album. I personally don't think this album will ever top OK Computer for me, just because I love OK Computer so much. I grew up listening to that when I was a young teenager, and it just feels so foundational, so important to me. But maybe that's exactly why To Pimp a Butterfly is so important right now for so many people who use Rate Your Music. I'm sure a lot of you listened to Pimp a Butterfly for your first time when you were 14, 15, 16 years old, and it shaped blew your freaking mind forever. Anywho, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of To Pimp a Butterfly. Do you think it really is a masterpiece? Do you kind of feel the same way I do? Do you think that I will say I'm pretty happy to see it at number one, just because I'm seeing a lot of racist people online, on Twitter and other places on the internet raging. They are so mad that an album made by a black man who's singing and rapping about how bad racism is, that's going to obviously piss off a lot of racists if that's number one best album. So I'm cool with it. Go ahead, keep it there for number one to piss off the racists. I'm always down with that. And let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching Punk Revolution Now.